Oh God, I am so late. Jimin must be waiting for me. She murmured to herself, speeding the car to reach her home as soon as possible. She glanced at her wristwatch and sighed. It was 15 past midnight. He will be so upset. Here, Wine was trying to reach home as soon as possible. Why? Because her husband arranged a home date for them and she is late. No, she is very, very late. The reason is only one. Wine is a doctor and the last moment emergency made her late, so she can't back off from her duty. After 15 minutes, Wine reached her home. She parked her car and got off. Pulling out the keys from her bag, she quickly unlocked the door. Opening the front door slowly, she tiptoed inside. The living room was dark and quiet. She looked around to find her husband, but he wasn't there. She placed her bag on the couch and moved towards the dining area. There was he, her husband, sitting on his seat. His cheeks were resting on his palms, staring at the front wall, more like glaring at it. The dining table was decorated with rose and scented candles. His face was glowing in candlelight. There were different dishes placed on the table. She bit her lower lip as guilt rushed through her veins. Though she had her reason, still she felt bad for making him wait. He put too much efforts for this date and she ruined it all. Jimin, her voice was barely whisper, but he heard it due to utter silence. He moved his eyes from the wall to her. He averted his eyes away, giving her a glare. He is angry, Wyan thought. Taking a deep breath, Wyan walked towards him with slow steps. She stood beside him. I am sorry, Jimin, for being late, but I have my reason. I swear I didn't forget about it. I have got an emergency case at the last moment. She explained herself, but he didn't say anything. He took the dishes and went to kitchen. Wyan pouted and peeped inside the kitchen to find him reheating the food. She smiled and went to their bedroom to take a quick shower. Wyan came back feeling fresh after a shower. Jimin was serving food in two plates. He settled on his seat and started eating. Wyan took a seat beside him. It was all her favorite food. She took a bite and her taste buds blessed with the amazing flavors. Wow, the food is delicious. I love both the food and the one who made it. She said, trying to get some reaction from him, but he was silently eating his food unbothered. Only if she knew how hard was it trying to control his smile. Wine pouted and got back with eating. She can apologize after eating the food, right? Jimmy finished his food and got up taking his plate. While Wine was still swallowing the delicious meal, he went to kitchen and washed his plate and went towards their bedroom without looking at her while Wine was noticing his every movement. She quickly finished her food and ran towards their bedroom. Jimin was sitting on one side of bed reading a book. Wine strode towards him and sat beside him. She rested her head on his shoulder and wrapped her hands around his arm. Jimin, I'm sorry, please talk to me. But he was adamant with his plan of ignoring her. Jimin, she whined, shaking his shoulder, but he was behaving like she was invisible. Wine huffed and pouted. Okay, fine, don't talk. Let's sleep, I am tired. And you know I can't sleep without cuddling with you. Let me cuddle you, please. She made the best puppy face, but nothing was affecting him. Wyan sighed sadly. Jimmy took a deep breath to control his smile. He didn't want to ruin his act as he was enjoying the extra attention his wife was giving him. It seems like I have to sleep hugging a pillow as my husband is ignoring me. She placed a pillow between them to cuddle, but it was thrown away by her dear husband. She again tried to put a pillow between them, but again the same thing happened. Soon after, all the pillows were lying across the room. Neither you want to cuddle me, nor you want me to cuddle a pillow. What do you want exactly? But there were no answer. He continued reading his book or pretending to read. She stared at him for some time before lying beside him, covering herself with the duvet, her back facing him. He looked at her from the corner of his eye. He closed his book and placed it on the nightstand. He slipped inside the duvet. He placed his hand on her waist, pulling her closer to himself so that his front was touching her back. He nuzzled his face in her hair, sniffing her fragrance. One couldn't control herself and burst into giggles. What happened, Mr. Park? Done with ignoring? He slided his hand inside her shirt and pinched her waist. Ouch! She slapped his arm and then turned around facing him. Wine looked at him with a smile while he still had his turn up expressions on. Wine packed his lips and snuggled into his chest, finally feeling warmth and peace. He tightened his grip on her waist and both of them slipped into deep slumber. Wine woke up feeling something wet on her face. She opened her eyes to find her husband kissing all over her face. She smiled. Jimin was having his best time stealing kisses from his wife, but as he realized that she was awake, his eyes widened. He looked everywhere but her. What were you doing? He cleared his throat and looked away. So, are you not angry anymore? He glared at her like telling her that yes, I am very angry. She chuckled. He rolled his eyes and got up and moved to bathroom. Wine shook her head and went to kitchen to prepare breakfast. Wine was done with breakfast. She served the breakfast in two plates. She heard the sound of footsteps approaching her. She looked up to find his husband in a black, elegant suit, all ready to leave for his work. He is a physics professor. Wine was too lost in checking him out until he banged his hand on the counter. She flinched and looked at his hand to find a sticky note. It said, I am still angry. Wine found his actions cute. She chuckled and went closer to him. He was eating his breakfast. She bent to his level and kissed his cheek dangerously close to his lips. She licked the corner of his lips. His movement halted. He was shocked at her sudden actions. He looked at her and she smiled innocently. He gulped inaudibly and continued eating his breakfast. Wine too sat beside him and started eating. I have a day off today, Wine stated. Though he showed no reaction, but Wine knew he was listening. Now Jimin was regretting the idea of being angry on her. Only if he was not pretending to be upset, then he would have ditched his work to spend his whole day with her. She rarely got day off due to her profession. He half-heartedly finished his breakfast and went to living room. Here, Jimin had untied and tied his shoelace up teen time, waiting for his wife to see him off. He was glancing at kitchen again and again, but she wasn't coming. As he was done tying his shoelaces again, he saw Wine coming towards him. He quickly picked the magazine placed on the glass table, acting like he wasn't waiting for her just now. She placed his lunchbox in front of him. I didn't know you can read the magazine upside down. His ears turned red in embarrassment. He placed the magazine back and got up from his place. He slowly looked at her. She was smiling at him. He grabbed his tie and pulled it so that his face was now at her level. She kissed his forehead, making him close his eyes. She kissed his both eyes and then both cheeks. She kissed his nose tip, finally coming to his lips. He licked his lips, making her smile. She placed her rosy lips on his soft plump lips. After a long peck, she was about to move back, but he grabbed her nape and deepened the kiss. He sucked her lower lip and she reciprocated the same with his upper lip. He slided his other hand on her waist and jerked her body closer to his. She gasped in between the kiss and grabbing the opportunity, he slided his tongue inside her mouth, exploring every corner. Feeling the need of oxygen, they pulled back after a long makeout session, their forehead resting against each other as they tried to calm their breathing. Wine blushed and looked at him to find him staring intensely at her lips. She knew she had to back off or things won't end up good. She cupped his cheeks and made him look at her. Eat your lunch on time and don't give too much homework to your students. And do miss me all day. Now go, you are getting late. She grabbed his bag and lunchbox in one hand and grabbed his arm from other hand and dragged him outside. I am still angry. You need to make it up to me. He whined, earning a chuckle from her. I know. Now go, you are getting late. She handed him his bag, his lunchbox, and car keys, and gave a last peck on his lips before pushing him out of the front door. She knew if she didn't, then he was not gonna go to work. I love you, my dear husband. Saying this, Wine closed the front door. She peeped out from the window and saw him going towards his car, sulking. He was murmuring something. Wine giggled as he was looking so cute. Soon he drove off. Wine sighed. Now let's prepare to make it up to my angry husband. She chuckled to herself. Jimin came home exhausted. He frowned his eyebrows when he found the living room dark and quiet. He looked around to find Wine. That's when his eyes caught a gift box placed on the couch. There was a note stick to it. He picked up the box and opened the note. The note says, Wear this and come to rooftop. He grinned ear to ear. He took the box and went to their room to get ready. He had a never-ending smile on his face whole time. Wearing the black silk shirt along with the black trousers his wife gifted him, he moved to rooftop to meet his wife. His jaw dropped looking at the arrangements his wife made for him. He stared at every corner, observing every small detail. That's when his eyes fell on his wife, who was dolled up in red bodycon dress, looking breathtaking, her back facing him. His breath hissed when he checked her out from head to toe, her curves on display, as the dress was hugging her body perfectly. His throat felt dry and his body felt hot. He unknowingly licked his lips. That's when she turned around, making him come out from his not so decent thoughts. She gasped loudly and put her hand on her heart. Oh my husband is so handsome. Her words made him blush. His cheeks and ears turned red. She stepped towards him and garlanded her arms around his neck. You are going to be the reason of my death someday, she whispered, pulling his face closer to her. She pecked his lips. How did I get so lucky to have you as my husband? Her words turned him into a whole tomato. He looked away and scratched his neck, making her laugh. Come. She held his hand and pulled him towards the table where his favorite food was placed. She pulled a chair for him and made him sit there. She took her seat and served both of them. Jimmy took a bite while Wine waited patiently for his reaction. Wow, I love it. I love both the food and the one who made it. Wine smiled and started eating. They both ate in silence. They enjoyed their date talking and laughing together. Jimmy and Wine were cuddling on their bed. Wine's head was on his chest while his arms were securely wrapped around her. Jimmy, hmm? Are you still angry on me? What if I say I am? Wine raised her head and looked directly at him. Are you? I am. Wine smiled and sat on his stomach. Her legs were either side of his waist. He kept his hands on her waist. She leaned towards his face. Excitement rushed through his veins. Her hair fell on his face. He closed his eyes as she was few centimeters away from his lips. Her smile turned into a smirk as loud shriek left his mouth. He burst into loud laughter as Wine started tickling him. Are you angry? Tell me. She giggled as he wiggled to get away from her. Stop, I am not angry. I was just goofing around, he said in between his loud laugh. Wine finally stopped, making him sigh in relief. He closed his eyes, trying to calm his breathing. Wine wrapped her arms around his neck and lay on him completely. He groaned. Get off me, you are heavy. Wine gasped loudly and raised his head to look at him. She narrowed her eyes at him. Excuse me, I am not heavy. You are weak. A husband should be strong enough to bear his wife's weight, okay? Oh, really? He said, tightening his grip on her waist. Yes, it ain't my fault that you got no stamina. Oh, I got no stamina. He slided his hand from her waist to her butt, giving it a light squeeze, and smirked. Wine squinted her eyes at him. What do you think you are doing? What am I doing? He asked with a naughty smile on his face. I know your intentions very well. Good. He nodded, and a blink of eye she was under him. He was looking at her with so many emotions in his eyes. Now that you know my intentions, so shall we proceed further? Maya smiled, pulling him closer to her by his nape and smashed her lips on his. Both of them smiled between the kiss, droning in the world of sinful love.